Welcome to City Club of Eugene's December 18th, 2020 program. The name of it is a 2020 Gifts to the City program. This is a 14th program and final program for 2020 calendar year. We'll return on January 8th. My name is Kitty Piercy and I'm the City Club President-elect. Support for the City Club is provided by our members and sponsors. You can become a member of the City Club at our website, cityclubofeugene.org. Our programs are always available on YouTube channel and on our Facebook page and rebroadcast on public radio station KLCC 89.7 on Mondays at 7 o'clock. We have both business and in-kind sponsors, including Kaiser Permanente, exists to provide high quality, affordable healthcare services and to improve the health of our members and the communities we serve. More information at www.kp.org. Support comes from the University of Oregon. Since 1876, the University of Oregon has helped Oregonians question critically, think logically, reason effectively, communicate clearly, act creatively, and live ethically. More information at uoregon.edu. Peace Health is proud to serve Eugene, Lane County, and beyond. As your hometown healthcare partner for more than 80 years, their mission is to keep you and your family healthy. Learn more at peacehealth.org. And Lane Community College transforms lives through learning. LCC provides comprehensive, accessible, high-quality education opportunities that promote student success. For more information, visit lanecc.edu/programs. We would also like to acknowledge the generous support from the City of Eugene and from Lane County. On to today's program. Even those who believe Eugene is a practically perfect place to call home occasionally see a gap where an asset should be. What that gap seems to be depends on where they are standing. What constitutes the right asset to fill it depends on the understanding of the community. In this annual program, City Club invites people from different corners of our little world to imagine they have been given a magic wand with the sole purpose of conjuring up a gift that would perfectly meet our collective need. We ask them to give this virtual gift to the city. In a year when we have removed from our public collection some monuments that have passed their prime, we encourage givers to imagine filling those spaces with new monuments, symbolizing the message of their gift. Reprising his role as MC is the Reverend Daniel Bryant, who is now retired from his long tenure as pastor of First Christian Church and enjoying working as full-time executive director of Square One Villages. He will introduce the 10 presenters.
I am wearing a Christmas gift, this tie I was given years ago, which I have been told, depending on the light, changes color. So I don't know if you can tell that or not, but it's kind of like those LED lights, you know, that you see sometimes on Christmas trees and elsewhere that change colors. Well, Santa's helpers have been asked this year to give our beloved community a monument, something to inspire us as we look to the new year. And boy, can we use that inspiration as this year draws to a close. And I think you will find something in the City Club stocking to fit the bill. So to begin our program this year with our gifts to our city, it seems fitting to begin with our City Council's gift to the city in the form of our new city manager. Sarah Madera has 24 years of experience with the City of Eugene, including serving as the City Manager Pro Tem, the Assistant City Manager, the Planning and Development Department Director, the Public Works Director, and more. Sarah was unanimously appointed as our city manager by the City Council earlier this year. She began her career with the City of Eugene in 1996 as a maintenance employee with Parks and Open Space, and has since held many positions throughout the organization. She often refers to herself as the city's utility player. Well, Sarah has a passion for the intersections of people and places. She has been a voice of equity and inclusion throughout her career and regularly invites new voices to help her inform her thinking.
Happy end of the year, City Club. It feels so 2020 to be recording this kind of alone in my office as opposed to having lunch with you and being there in person. I'm really, really pleased to be one of the people that was asked to give a gift to Eugene. So I've been thinking about that. I've also been thinking a lot about the invitation to be sort of slapstick or the invitation to be serious. And to me, I always have sort of a healthy sense of humor, but 2020 feels a little serious to me, and there's a lot of things happening right now that I know are really difficult for the community. And so for me to come in and just be sort of silly just doesn't feel right. So let me tell you what I'm thinking about for my gift to Eugene, and it's really the gift of hope. A book that I often refer to a lot is a book on positivity, a research-based book that I go back to over and over again. And I was rereading a section on hope, and there's just a great couple of lines I want to read it for you. But hope comes into play when your circumstances are dire. Things are not going well for you, or there's considerable uncertainty about how things will turn out. Hope arises precisely within those moments when hopelessness or despair seem just as likely. Many of you in this room are a lot smarter than me. You've done a lot of research and theory. So I'll just give you my basic knowledge of hope theory. And it basically breaks down into a couple of things that you have goal. One of the things that's really unique about humans is that we have the ability to vision our future. And so hope is a lot about being able to see that, have some goals, be able to see a plan and a pathway to get there. And then one of the most important elements of it is that you have agency, personal agency, which means you really have the ability, the control and the power to actually do something. And if you don't have that piece of believing that you have some agency in that longer term vision, it's really hard to have hope. So as we kind of end the year, we have a lot of challenges behind us, and we have, I think, just as many ahead of us. I give you that gift of hope. And so for me, the monument is a temporary art installation at the City Hall building construction site next to what will be hopefully an awesome farmer's market that will come out of the ground next year, is a installation of a mirror, large installation. So when you go to City Hall, where you go to figure out how we're going to make change, that you see yourself in that change. You see your own personal agency. So there you have it, a mirror at City Hall, because all of us are actually City Hall. I hope your year ends well. Hope you're all healthy. I miss you. And as challenging as the year has been, I'm still super grateful to be here. And I love Eugene. Thanks.
Hope is positively what we need mirrored for all. So thank you very much, Sarah, for all you do for our city and for that gift. And from our city manager, we now turn to that other highly vaulted city leader renowned throughout the land for exemplary style and steady, if be it slow, leadership, Eugene's Slug Queen. And if this year we're not slimy enough already, we have once again Her Royal Highness Slug Goddess Slimeshine, aka Jeanette Kime, as she is also known when not munching on the lettuce in your garden. She is our first and our only two-time reigning Slug Queen, having been duly elected after counting all the legal votes 7 times, verifying the votes by independent electoral commissions 3 times, and prevailing in all 65 court cases contesting her election, just as elections are supposed to work. Oh, wait, this just in. The Attorney General of Texas is objecting that Texas slugs will be unduly harmed by Ms. Slimeshine, and is therefore filing a suit to stop the slime of our Slug Queen. Oh my. Well, regardless of what the gastropods of the panhandle say, Slug Goddess Slimeshine is still our queen, and participating in this program is one of her royal duties. And besides promoting SLUG, the Society for the Legitimatization of the Ubiquitous Gastropod, KIME coordinates the EUG parade, better fondly known as the Huge Parade, or it would be if we were allowed to do so in person again, which partners with the City of Eugene Sunday Streets event in a uniquely Eugene celebration of our wonderfully creative and sometimes quirky city. We are delighted to have her creative quirkiness with us once again this year. Your Highness, slime away.
Good evening, Eugene, and I'm so honored and excited to present my gift to the City of Eugene. Thank you, Eugene City Club, for asking me a second year. Thank you so much. The City Club asked me and all of us to imagine our gift as a monument. And I would envision that monument to look like resilience, inclusion, kindness, support of community. And I believe that that monument does exist in Eugene. And I can give examples of what I see already in Eugene. I think of Dr. King Silky Booker, who is donating blessing boxes. He and Bethany, they collect donations and food and donate those to families in need. What an amazing gift that they provide. I think of how we support our holiday market, our Saturday market, 50 years going strong, and people are out there supporting our small businesses and artisans in our community. What another great example. I think of a photo that I saw of Chris Peaches with the Register Guard recently of a fern emerging from a burned area in Fern Rock, and how that really shows resilience of our area after the devastating fires. I think of some of the virtual fundraisers that our nonprofits have had to provide because they aren't able to do their normal fundraising activities and provide support for their programs. I think of Downtown Languages, Lane Arts Council, Mecca, and some of those great organizations who've had to re-envision their fundraisers and how our community stepped up and supported them anyway. I think of Thrill the World Eugene flash mobs and how they over 8 years raised over $50,000 to support shelter care, and this year still bringing joy and excitement and dance to our neighborhoods in a safe manner. And again, they raised money for shelter care, another great organization. Another example is from the City of Eugene, our Transportation in Motion newsletter that goes out, and how they're highlighting anti-racism in transportation, try to make really significant changes in the city and in the transportation department to really look at some of their policies and procedures and how they're supporting our entire community. And I think of course, my favorite, the Huge Parade, how we had to have a virtual parade this year, but our community stepped up and really supported and showcased their organizations and what they provide to the community. So I see that we already have this monument. It's starting to be unveiled, and we really are a great community of resilience, inclusion, kindness, and support. And I would just love to see more of that. Thank you so much, Eugene.
You gotta love a slug queen with a cat, right? Made possible because of Zoom. So thank you, Jennifer, for showcasing your own resilience and inclusion. But can we have more of the cat next time? From Slug Queen, we go now to another wonderful Eugene institution of high repute, known for its unique combination of the quirky side of Eugene, support of the arts, witty commentary on public life, and just plain good journalism. The Eugene Weekly, of which Camilla Mortensen is the editor-in-chief. Camilla's career in journalism began as an environment reporter with a background in studying narrative through her master's in folklore and doctorate in comparative literature. She used that education combined with her love for analyzing politics and concern for the environment to write prize-winning coverage for the Eugene Weekly. Now, here is a hot news tip that I learned through my own investigative reporting. Aspiring young journalists are eager to intern for Camilla at the Weekly. She teaches them how to write and often sends them to other places, like the Wall Street Journal, of all places, and Bloomberg, and more. And Camilla shares her home, an Airstream trailer, by the way, with two big dogs, Axel and Biggie, appropriately enough, who both come to the Weekly office with her and escort her safely home each night, which is not a bad idea for journalists these days, given the abundant and abhorrent attacks on journalists by a certain ungracious loser in a recent election. And appropriately for this week in particular, you will learn shortly, we welcome Dr. Mortensen to share with us some very unfake news and give us her gift to our community through the stories that she offers.
In the spirit of the controversy over the Wall Street Journal publishing an opinion column calling for Dr. Jill Biden to drop her honorific, one she earned getting her doctorate in education, I'm going to introduce myself today as Dr. Camilla Mortensen. My doctorate is in comparative literature and my master's is in folklore and mythology. This, of course, has led me to become the editor of a newspaper. I came to Eugene to study stories when I enrolled for my PhD at the University of Oregon, and I wound up staying to tell stories. It's actually not that weird that I got into journalism. My background in literature and folklore means that I came to journalism out of love of storytelling, and journalism is rooted in storytelling. But by stories, I don't just mean the traditional sense. I am a journalist after all. I mean the story of what the City Council voted on last night, the story of what the Police Commission discussed yesterday, what court cases are underway and why they matter, what restaurants are hurt by the pandemic, what the governor has announced as she tries to reduce the effects of the pandemic, what the school board is up to and how it affects our children, what the homeless are suffering, the story of the environmental effects of the Holiday Farm fire, the story of what those in the BIPOC community have to say about this city. I can go on and on about the stories that need to be told and that I want to tell. And before you tell me that it sounds like I'm going to give you what you already have, the Register Guard and Eugene Weekly, KLCC Public Radio that you might be listening to right now, local TV stations, the community TV station. Like a lot of gifts and things in life, you don't know what you got until it's gone. Studies show that as cities lose their newspapers, governments lose their transparency, and citizens become less involved. That is not what Eugene needs, and it's not what we need during COVID-19. We were asked to consider monuments as gifts. Monuments can be old and in need of removal, old and in need of preservation, or new and amazing. And not unlike the news, monuments can be both a treasure and a problem. So my monumental gift is a bit of the old, the news coverage we've lost and need back, and a bit of the new, the voices that have not been heard, the perspectives that have not been seen. My gift to the city, and hopefully your gift to each other, is a monument to that which allows the untold stories to be told, and the clear eyes to see and read them, and the ears to hear them. I don't know what shape that monument would take, but I do know that we need it.
Dr. Mortensen. By the way, this is my trailer. It's not where I live, but where I work. It's my new COVID office. And it makes me wonder, when this pandemic ends, will anyone go back to their old office? I mean, I got my stove here with my tea kettle. Right below that's my refrigerator. The toilet's literally 2 steps away. And if I get a little sleepy, want to take a nap, well, bed's right over there, right? Pretty nice. Now, you may recall that we had an election recently, right? In which, according to the latest count, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris were elected 17 times. Well, our next gift giver, Joel Eboa, has already given us the gift of graciously conceding an election after narrowly losing his own campaign for public office. I mean, who knew what a precious gift that would be? Though he lost to a worthy opponent, the margin was reassuringly low, and we expect to see him run again when the right office opens up. Joel is no stranger to good causes and the public good, having served for nearly 4 years as the coalition manager for CASA of Oregon, which advocates for public and policy measures that protect the rights of immigrants, among others. In that position, he doubled the coalition's membership from 50 to 100 organizations statewide. And before that, Joel served as the Environmental Justice and Community Outreach Manager for Beyond Toxics, leading campaigns for reductions in the use of pesticides and herbicides and other initiatives designed to solve environmental problems that affected vulnerable communities. And as of this month, Joel is the founding director of the Oregon Just Transition Alliance. The Oregon Just Transition Alliance, which I'm sure we'll hear more about, seeks to move Oregon toward an economy that is rooted in our shared values and the principles of a just transition based in values of self-determination, ancestral wisdom, community resilience, regenerative ecology, and the harmony of community and nature. Joel was born in Eugene. He's the proud son of immigrants and is bilingual and bicultural.
Thank you so much to the City Club of Eugene for thinking of me to do this with you today. Every year, the City Club decides to give the residents of Eugene an opportunity to give a gift to the city. Before I do that, let me introduce myself. My name is Joel Ebola. I was born and raised right here in Eugene, and I'm the proud son of immigrants and a longtime resident of the Whitaker neighborhood. My gift to the city is a mirror. Mirrors have long been used by people to check how their hair looks, their teeth, make sure they don't have anything in their eyes. Some of us use it for vain reasons, to make sure we look good. Others, just to see how we look like. Mirrors used to look more like this. This is a piece of obsidian. Some of the earliest mirrors ever used were made of obsidian, and this particular piece is from my parents' homeland in Zacatecas, Mexico. But I give a gift to the city because I think we have a unique opportunity this year to do something incredible, which is reflect. COVID-19 has ravaged our world and ravaged our community and forced us to slow down, to stop and take a look at the mirror. As we embark closer and closer to 2021, as we embark on a new decade, I invite everyone who lives in the city of Eugene to reflect on themselves, on how they used to look like as children, teens, young adults, and so on and so forth. Think about how you've changed, not just the way you look, but how you feel about yourself, about others, and about the place we all call home. We have an opportunity to think critically how we want to look in the future. Now, we may not be able to choose how we're going to look, but we do have a choice of who is looking back at us in the mirror 1 year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Who do you want to see when you look in one of these? There are some of us who have been looking at mirrors since time immemorial and have done so thousands of times. And there are those of us, little ones, who are just starting to realize that the person that they're looking at is themselves. Unfortunately, we don't have a mirror big enough so that we all can stand in front of and look at ourselves. But collectively, we can decide who we'd like to be in the future. Thank you.
Another opportunity to take a good look at ourselves. You know, the bedrock of democracy is more than honoring the will of the people through the electoral process. It requires a well-informed public, and for that, a well-formed system of public education. Absolutely essential. Probably everyone in our meeting today could name at least one or two teachers who had a profound influence on their lives. We are honored to have with us today such a teacher who has dedicated herself not just to her profession, but to her students and to making our system of public education the best it can be. Jennifer Skurlock teaches AP English in the Eugene School District 4J. She is a leader in her union at the local, state, and national level, and the Minority Affairs Director for the Eugene Education Association. Jennifer serves as a director on both the Oregon Education Association and the National Education Association boards. Her passion for racial and social justice is reflected in her work conducting symposia and trainings for educators and community members. And most importantly for us today, she comes from one of the historic families of this community and a very critical part of our story, as you will soon hear.
Hello, everyone. Well, I was asked a question if I could give the city of Eugene a gift. What would I give? What would I give? And this is a challenging question for me, but it's also a beautiful question, something for me to think about. And so when I thought about the gift of what I would give or what it would look like or what it would be like, I thought about one of my heroes, one of the amazing people that I've had the blessing of having in my life and who has inspired me to be the woman that I am today. And if I could create something beautiful to honor her, I would do that in the image of a statue or something beautiful. I would, if I could, I would give a monument or some type of creation of my beautiful, amazing mother, Ernestine Stubbs Broaddus. And you may think, why would you give or want to create a monument of your mom, you know, and give it as a gift here to the city of Eugene? Well, there's a special reason why. My mom and her family and siblings grew up here in Eugene when Eugene was still segregated. Some of you may know the history of Eugene, where Black people specifically were restricted to various parts of the Eugene-Springfield area. So some lived in the West 11th area, some lived near High Street in Eugene, and then some lived in the Glenwood area. Well, my mom and her family lived in the West 11th area. And during that time, Blacks were restricted to a very, not a good part of the city of Eugene. There was a lot of flooding. The homes were not in good shape, but they were restricted to that particular area. And as a young girl, I would listen to my mother's stories. And I thought to myself as I was growing up that, you know, I was amazed at how she was able to maintain hope, to keep the passion of hope and to still treat people with dignity and respect, even though that was not freely given to her. And I remember listening to a story from my mom, and she talked about walking with her dear friend Lily, and they were walking down a road with my mom's two little sisters, Bonnie Jean and Doris. And my mom says she remembers hearing a sound, and then she saw what she thought were two paper bags flying in the air. And at some point she realized that what she thought were paper bags flying in the air were her two little baby sisters, Bonnie Jean and Doris. And they were both hit by a vehicle and their bodies went into the ditch nearby. And my mother, as a young girl, she's probably preteen at that time, she was so beside herself that she remembers hitting her head against a house, I don't know what house, and she was weeping terribly. And she remembers my grandfather saying to the young boy, the young kid who hit his daughters with this car, he said, "What have you done? What have you done?" And my mom remembers that my grandparents contacted the hospital, and they called for an ambulance to come and pick up their daughters who were unconscious on the side of the road. And here in the city of Eugene, where people say, oh, it was so great, it's welcoming to everyone, it did not welcome her two little sisters. And the ambulance would not come to pick up her two little sisters because they were two little Black girls. Now, later on, when the laws changed and people of color could live in various parts of Eugene, my mom remembers driving up to a place. She and my dad had found a really great place, and she was so excited to be able to rent from this particular place. And they had parked and they were waiting for the either the manager or the owner of the place to come and to show them the property. And when the manager realized who was waiting to see the rental, he did not get out of his vehicle. And so my father had said to my mom early on, he said, Ernestine, they are not going to rent to us. And my mom had faith. She had hope in the systems that, no, it's legal. Everything is so much better. And my dad said to her, Ernestine, they're not going to rent to us. So my dad went to have a conversation with the man who was still sitting in his vehicle. And the man looked at my father and he said, I'm so sorry, but I didn't know. Like, we can't rent to you. And he was referencing the color of my father's skin, and that he was not allowed to rent to a Black couple. And my father came and told my mom in the car what had transpired. And my mother wept, and she wept, and she wept. And so as I think about my mother, and I think about the power of a dream, I think about the power of hope, and how even in the midst of being treated as less than human in our community, that she maintained hope. And I always admired that about her, that in the midst of trials and tribulations, battling cancer, dealing with racial oppression, dealing with all types of things that she dealt with in her life, that she was able to hold on to hope, that she was able to hold on to dreams, and she was able to encourage others to continue to dream and to never lose hope, even in the midst of darkness, even in the midst of despair, even in the midst of being treated as less than human. She maintained her dignity and her respect for others. And so if I could give a gift to the city of Eugene to honor an amazing individual who has inspired me beyond measure, it would be my mother, Ernestine Stubbs Broaddus. And if I could put something on the gift, as far as a line or words of hope or words of encouragement, it would be something like this: never lose hope, never lose sight of your dreams, always believe the best in those who have even oppressed you, maintain your dignity and respect, love one another, hold up one another, and be the best human being that you can be. So Eugene, I honor you with an image, a monument, something special to embrace the beauty of my mother, Ernestine Stubbs Broaddus, one of my heroes, always has been, always will be. And I hope that one day I will be as amazing as she has been in my life. Thank you so much.
For sharing your mother as a monument of hope for all of us. Back in school in Albany, where I grew up, Mr. Hogan always taught us in band that a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. I don't know why he always seemed to be looking at me when he said that, but I learned from that lesson. And so too, the strength of a community is measured by how it treats and strengthens its most vulnerable members. I have been honored to work with our next gift giver on many occasions over the last several years in that effort to support some of the most vulnerable members of our community. And I know him to be a deeply committed individual, also working for the common good and especially for some of the most vulnerable in this community. Tim Black is the Winter Strategies Manager for St. Vincent de Paul. After a few years at Common Cause in Washington, D.C., he moved to Eugene, where he worked first for the city and then for the University of Oregon, mostly in the office of the president. After a brief sojourn in San Luis Obispo at Cal Poly, he came back to Eugene. But in any case, the last time I saw Tim, he was setting up the youth shelter for the Egan Warming Center at the Methodist Church. But I get emails from him regularly, constantly organizing our community to make sure no one freezes to death again on our streets. And it's not an easy job, especially in the midst of this pandemic when sites and volunteers are both in short supply. So give Tim your attention and respect because he has earned it.
Thank you, Dan, and everyone who makes City Club possible. Hello, Eugene. I'm excited to offer a gift. My spouse and I moved here back in 1995, and it feels like a long time ago. And I know I can sound like one of those grumpy people who doesn't like change, but I get my groceries at PC. I used to get my movies from Pix and Flicks. The corner of Broadway and Pearl will always be Cafe Xenon to me. I miss my tempeh scramble at the Keystone. And where the heck is Bushnell University? Sorry, Bushnell. Just kidding. Congratulations. I know change is inevitable. We've had a lot of wonderful additions in Eugene, and I really do believe that Eugene is getting better every day. And I can still buy my books at J. Michael's. I get my Bialys at Barry's, and I still head to Jerry's, even though usually there's multiple stops after that to Eugene. True Value to get everything I forgot and whenever I need some help. So anyway, all those years ago, my wife, city planner Rebecca Gershow, chose U of O for graduate school, and I tagged along, not having a clue what I would do. Well, that worked out fine because I've had wonderful opportunities and I've met amazing people along the way. One of the first things I did is join the Eugene Concert Choir. And to this day, the people I met and the experience of singing those masterworks on the Holt Center stage are still some of my most cherished memories. My first work experience was also at the Holt Center. Then I worked for the Eugene Celebration. Remember those? I worked for the city's neighborhood program, then the city manager's office, then moved over to the U of O. In all of these, I was so lucky to work with amazing people. I got to help tell their stories. I got to help support them. People who transformed lives, transform our community. And now I'm at St. Vincent de Paul, where I get to work with people who save lives. They are really are heroes among us, including and especially the volunteers who make Egan Warming Center possible. So all those people that I've had a chance to work with, all different, unique, but they all have at least one thing in common. We all have at least one thing in common, and that's best intentions. We want to do good. We want to be good. If we know that about ourselves, how on earth can we question or doubt that in others? So my gift. What can I give my community? What monument can I give that will help us celebrate and appreciate each other? Shoes. A monument to shoes. Okay, you're thinking, what? Doesn't Trackdown USA already have enough monuments to shoes? Not those shoes. I give you a monument where we can stand in other people's shoes. And if you can't stand, you can be in other people's shoes. It could be downtown, Kesey Square in front of the library, or better yet, create your own other people's shoes monument in your favorite places across town. Well, what do you do in an other people's shoes monument? You stop. You breathe, you look up from your phone and see, you take out your earbuds and you listen. Just 30 seconds. How many people do you see? What are their stories? What gifts do they bring to our community? And what if they're homeless? Can you look at them with compassion, without judgment? Can you look at them and know that there's someone's brother, uncle, sister, someone's former coworker, someone's friend? And think about this. When our friends up the Mackenzie lost their houses, this community sprang into action. It was an emergency and people really stepped up. If you're homeless, every day is that emergency and every day is the trauma that comes with that. And now it's even harder with COVID. How can you shelter in place if you don't have a shelter and you don't have a place where you can legally or simply just be? So when you're back in your own shoes, and you walk by one of our unhoused neighbors, just greet them like you would any other neighbor. Hello, good morning. That simple act can make a world of difference. And if you were in their shoes, isn't that what you would want? May this gift help us be the best humans we can be. And if we do that, Eugene will be the best city it can be. Thank you. I wish you and yours the happiest and most peaceful of holidays.
Gift and for everything you do in our community. You know, 2020 has been the year that keeps on giving, or should I say, keeps on taking. Over 300,000 lives thus far in the pandemic, more than any other war in our history, save the Civil War. And that just in 10 months. Our economy took a nosedive. So many critical events canceled, graduation ceremonies, weddings, and funerals. And just when we thought it couldn't get any worse, our forests exploded as if by spontaneous combustion. The devastation of those rural communities from the recent fires is almost incomprehensible. The one bright spot has been the heroic efforts of the firefighters. Chief Rainbow and Blue River come to mind, and the dramatic rescue of those 70 people from the Detroit Reservoir that is bound to become a Hollywood movie. So it seems fitting that we pay tribute to the many other unsung heroes who fought the fires on our behalf with a gift from one who knows them well. Timothy Inglesby is the co-founder and executive director of Firefighters United for Safety, Ethics, and Ecology, and he is a faculty research associate at the University of Oregon. Timothy began his career as a wildland firefighter for the U.S. Forest Service and the National Park Service. In 1993, Timothy received the Oregon Conservationist of the Year Award by the Oregon Natural Resources Council for his organizing efforts that helped protect the arson-burned Warner Creek Fire area from salvage logging. Timothy co-founded and directed the Cascadia Fire Ecology Education Project from 1994 to 2004, and created and directed the Western Fire Ecology Center from 1997 to 2004. Timothy is a senior wildland fire ecologist certified by the Association for Fire Ecology. So let's listen as Timothy gives.
My gift to the city in the form of a monument would be a giant sequoia, one of the most monumental of all tree species. The giant sequoia can grow to be 20 feet wide and 300 feet tall, higher than the tallest buildings in our city. They are the largest trees by volume of any other tree on Earth, and they can live to be 3,000 years old. Their roots go deep into the earth, and their immense canopies fill the sky and catch the clouds, condensing fog into rain. The trees feed and shelter dozens of species of birds, mammals, insects, and fungi. What is most special to me about giant sequoias is not their great size or age, but their evolutionary adaptations to fire and drought. These trees form what's called a fire climax community that thrives with fire, but their health and numbers decline without fire. They are especially suited to a Mediterranean climate like ours, warm, dry summers with cool, wet winters. However, a century of logging and firefighting has restricted their once great range to just 75 groves left, mainly in the Sierra Nevada. They are a non-native species to our area, but climate change is altering the habitats and ranges of many plants and animals. Giant sequoia may become a new addition to Cascadia's big tree bioregion. In fact, last year, before the pandemic hit, hundreds of baby giant sequoias were planted by citizen volunteers across the city, and I was privileged to be able to plant one of these trees too. Big old trees are a gift from nature that will help recover and stabilize the climate. They will soak up the sunlight and rain, suck up that excess carbon from the atmosphere, and exhale life-giving oxygen to the rest of us. These trees will endure the droughts and wildfires that will be more frequent occurrence in our future. These trees, with proper care during their infancy, will live on as monuments to the next 150 generations of human residents of Eugene, as a sign of hope and resilience and commitment to the future. My gift to the city is really about more than a tree. It is really about having the courage and commitment to walk the talk of being a Tree City USA and become a leader in the fight against fossil fuel pollution causing climate change. Our city leaders and my fellow citizens must turn our good words into great deeds and act now with the visionary wisdom and the sense of longevity of a tree. Centuries from now, when these trees are hundreds of feet tall, will our city be sheltering and feeding its residents with the same vitality, generosity, and beauty as one of these trees? May our courage and commitment to survive and thrive in a warming world become as giant as a sequoia. The courage to stop the threats to the planet, like new fossil fuel infrastructure projects in our town, and the commitment to nurture a new life-affirming culture and economy, a green economy. I think that I will never see a gift to the city as lovely as a giant sequoia tree. And that is my gift to the city.
Of young sequoias at Opportunity Village Eugene, which we plan to offer to the community sometime next year. And of course, it'll be a few years before they gain monumental stature, but we hope it'll be the start of something big just the same. Well, someone who knows the beauty and wonder of our national forests up close and personal is our next speaker. The Statesman Journal writes this of her. When Emily Hallen's mother died of cancer earlier this year, she decided to honor her memory by trying something big. She chose one of Oregon's most grueling challenges. In the early morning darkness of August 1st, the 35-year-old Eugene resident laced up her shoes at the Oregon-California border and stepped onto the Pacific Coast Trail. Then she started running. Over the next week, Halnan ran up mountains and down river valleys through a frigid thunderstorm and boiling temperatures. Felt her shins ache and feet swell up on 17-hour days in remote wilderness. When she reached the Washington border on August 9th, Halnan had set a new speed record for the Oregon section of the Pacific Coast Trail, 455 miles in 7 days, 19 hours, 23 minutes. That's 57 miles a day. Incredible. And it's a record for all runners, male or female. And in the process, she raised $33,000 for cancer research.
I moved to Eugene because I ran a marathon here. I flew out from the East Coast where I lived at the time, met up with a few girlfriends from around the country, back when you could do that kind of thing. And we all had the most magical 26.2 mile run through the city, soaking up the contagious energy of Tracktown, running the fastest marathons of our running lives through the streets and bark trails and bike paths of Eugene, and celebrating with an extra hoppy IPA on a sun-drenched Ninkasi patio. I loved it so much that when I decided I wanted to move to the West Coast, Eugene was at the very top of my list. But on the day I actually moved to Eugene, I wasn't automatically greeted by that same bliss. I didn't know anyone here. I arrived scared, sad, and second-guessing my life choices. So the first thing I did was Google map my way to a trailhead, which led me to the base of Spencer Butte and then up to the highest point in the city. Running up that trail was exactly what I needed on that hard day. The skyscraping evergreens and plush dirt trail and sweeping views of the Cascades grounded me and lifted me and reminded me why I wanted to move to Oregon in the first place, to be surrounded by wild places and beautiful trails and to explore this magical corner of Earth. That drive to the trailhead was probably the last time I doubted my choice to move to Oregon, to Eugene specifically. And most of what has shaped the city into the very best place I could live is the local running scene and running community. The running grounds here are world-class, and the people you'll find on them are even better. That day I moved here was far from the last hard day when one of the best things I can do for myself is head to the Ridgeline Trails. When I lost my mother earlier this year to a rare uterine cancer, I was running up to Blanton Trailhead most every day, finding the trails a cathartic release for my grief, a peaceful place to calm the emotional hurricane I was wading through, and a ground to meet friends and connect with loved ones for a mile or 20. You invited me here because I set a record on the Oregon PCT this summer and raised over $33,000 for rare cancer research in honor of my amazing mother, who ran her first marathon at the age of 50 and was the reason I started running in the first place. She also made her way out to Eugene to run the half marathon here and loved her tour of the city as much as I did. When people ask me how I prepared myself to run that 460 miles across the state faster than any other human, man or woman, I tell them I've been getting ready for it for 7 years, which is exactly how long I've lived and run in Eugene. So much of what got me ready to run such a stupid number of miles and to set that record happened on the trails around town, in the mountains you can get to within 90 minutes, and with the friends that have made this place my home. Through the hundreds and thousands of times that I've climbed to all of the highest points in Eugene, Baldy and the Butte and Pisgah, through swimming through sopping wet ridgeline trails during the wettest days of winter, and through hundreds of runs with friends from Crease Trails to the Blanton Meadow. That run was a 460-mile celebration of Oregon and Eugene running. For my gift to the city, I am leaving a monument in the spirit of monuments that protect huge swaths of meadow landscapes, like the Cascade-Siskiyou National Monument to the south of us, which I got to run through during that PCT run. I would like to gift the city with a network of new trails that stretch from the current ridgeline system to Eugene's other highest point at Mount Pisgah. I've run between these two hills, the Butte and Pisgah, a number of times, and I can assure you that the current route that travels from the Pisgah trailhead back to 30th Avenue is not the best running that Eugene has to offer. And a new and expanded trail system will not only offer a better option than the side of CV Drive, but will also gift runners and hikers and walkers alike with even more miles of trails to enjoy right in our backyard, which is such a special feature of Eugene. The running community and the fact that I can find my way into the woods and onto a trail on most any day of the week is what lured me into Eugene in the first place, and it's what keeps me here and makes this place such an unbeatable home. I know I'm not alone in appreciating just what a gift the Eugene running scene is, and I hope this gift to the city of even more trails allows even more people to get out and enjoy them as much as I have.
The killing of George Floyd, a reality sadly all too familiar for most people of color in this country. Never mind the many others prior to that killed for the crime of just being Black in the wrong place, which should have woken us all to the truth of Black Lives Matter. George Floyd's death and his desperate plea, "I can't breathe," caught on camera, became the rally cry heard not just around this country, but around the world. One of the gifts of this moment in time is the emergence of new leaders who are holding society accountable for the sin of racism and the ongoing harm it causes to all of us, not only people of color. Midas Well is one of those. Midas is a member of the Eugene Ad Hoc Committee on Police Reform and Direct Action Coordinator with Black Unity, which describes itself as a social learning group. Since starting in June of 2020, the group has expressed its commitment to equity and its understanding of the many dimensions of a healthy community life by sponsoring a broad array of activities.
If you know anything about Black Unity, you know how we feel about the existence of police forces in Eugene and nationwide. Now, as a police abolitionist fighting for the liberation of our comrades of color, I, with Black Unity's support, believe that the greatest gift that we can give this city is a city completely free from a police force. Now, I recognize that upon first hearing that, a lot of emotions can come up. Fear, confusion, scorn. It probably doesn't even sound like a very good gift to a lot of you. But the best thing about this gift is that it is actually many, 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 many gifts all wrapped up into one. You see, we believe that communities that have easy and equitable access to housing, education, food, and healthcare, basic necessities for life, have a drastically lower need for a police force. In fact, we believe that a community can become so strong and so tight-knit that they take away the need for a police force altogether. Now, this is not an overnight process. Think of this as the gift that keeps on giving. As we slowly take more and more power and money away from the EPD, we will at the same time be redistributing that money to other agencies that will be taking on the duties that were once our police forces. Agencies like Cahoots that don't need to carry weapons or practice violence and intimidation to achieve their goals. I want you to imagine a world in which you could call 911 on a houseless comrade having a mental health crisis. And instead of people with guns showing up, possibly exacerbating the situation until it ends in violence, we instead have mental health trained professionals and de-escalators who show up knowing that violence isn't even an option for this situation. Ask any nurse you know, and they're going to tell you how possible it is to subdue someone having a mental health crisis without having to resort to violence. Imagine if instead of unmarked cars, military-grade weaponry, and a treat everyone as a suspect mentality, we instead had traffic safety employees in brightly marked and easy-to-identify vehicles whose main purpose wasn't to extract funding by accusing our comrades of paltry crimes, but instead were just there to maintain public order with no thought to fines and court payments and any other way they can squeeze our funds from us because they are already funded. Are you imagining it? Because we are. That imagination, that far-fetched dream, that is the gift that we want to give to you. That is the gift that we are fighting to give to you. To commemorate this gift, to make sure that people never forget the struggles and where we came from, we'd like to erect a statue of 2 handcuffs with the chains severed. We can't forget the tyranny that was imposed on us for so long, but we also can't forget that it is the power of community, it is the power of unity that breaks that chain. Thank you.
Sorry, I forgot to silence my phone. That's a call from New York. I better take it. Yeah, hello. Mr. Giuliani. Right. Oh, Rudy. Okay, Rudy, nice to meet you. Yeah, you heard that already. A tweet from who? No kidding. Yeah, he died on November 1st. Yeah, 2 days before the election. Well, you do understand that he was still alive when he mailed his ballot in, right? Yes, that is legal in the state of Oregon. Yeah, that's legal here too, and at least in about a dozen other states. No, where you smoke it is still an issue, but it's legal in your own home, correct? I'm not a lawyer, but I don't think you can disqualify the votes of an entire state on that basis. Yeah, no matter what they were smoking, right? No, I believe shipping it to you would be a federal crime, so sorry, I can't do that. Yeah, well, glad we could straighten that out, Rudy. Yeah, nice to talk to you too. Okay. Yeah, well, speaking of lawyers and lawsuits, seems like we have heard from judges all across the country a little more than normal the past few weeks. And if nothing else, this election has shown us the incredible importance of an independent judiciary to the health of democracy. And even while pundits express their alarm of the damage done to the system and the confidence of the electorate in the results, I still find hope in this fact, that it did not matter whether one was appointed by a Republican or a Democrat or even by President Trump himself. The near universal judgment from the bench was that the election was free and fair, and the attempts to override the clear will of the people by judicial fiat would undermine the very basis of democracy. So it seems fitting that we give the last word today to a judge. One of those judges of which we in this town can be most proud is the Honorable Mustafa Kasubai. Judge Kasubai earned his Juris degree from the University of Oregon and was admitted to the bar in 1997. After practicing law for 10 years, he became a state circuit court judge in 2007, and then a U.S. magistrate judge in the district court here in Eugene in 2018. He's been very active in a variety of groups dedicated to supporting marginalized populations in the practice of law, including the Oregon Hispanic Bar, the Gay and Lesbian Lawyers Association, the Women and the Minority Lawyers Associations. He has a number of articles for trade publications and has a rather provocative piece coming out next month in the Oregon State Bar Bulletin, co-authored by Sarah Millick, entitled, "Is There a Place for Us in Oregon on Being a Muslim American in Oregon's Legal Profession?" Well, Judge Kasubai, there is a place for you here at City Club.
Greetings, Eugene. Thank you for allowing me this privilege to confer a gift to Eugene, my home for 27 years, and hopefully for the rest of my life. Now, I understand the theme is monuments, and so in the most basic of forms and shapes, I would like to give a gift of a large bronze statue of a steaming potato, and it would actually steam. And here's a demonstrative visual. Large potato. Now, citizens, this potato represents power. And this monument would serve as a reminder to everyone in our city who wields power or authority over others that we must pass it on, because if we try to hold on to it for far too long, we will burn ourselves and leave others cold. Now, there would be an inscription on this monument with 3 contemplations beneath the big bronze potato. The first, believe that the world is wide enough for all of us. Because when we do, then your dignity never has to come at the cost of my own. The second inscription, embrace better conversations. Now I'm regifting something from Krista Tippett, who's just an amazing author and interviewer on civil conversations. And these are her grounding virtues for better conversations. I've paraphrased and quoted below. Words matter. Among other powers that words have, the words we use shape how we treat others and, frankly, the world around us. Hospitality. Create a trustworthy space. Humility. Now, this humility that I'm talking about is not about getting small, but about encouraging others to be big. Patience. Takes on a long view of time. Human transformation is necessary for social transformation. However, do not confuse patience with inaction. Always act when injustice is witnessed. Fifth, generous listening. It is about presence as much as receiving it. It is about connection more than observing. Real listening is powered by curiosity, and it involves vulnerability. Adventurous civility. This kind of civility honors the difficulty and complexity of being human together. Civility is about creating new possibilities for living forward while being different and even continuing to hold profound disagreements. And the third inscription below this big bronze potato would read the following: I swear to pass the potato on. This phrase should be included in every official's oath of office. And consider that our public service is unsuccessful unless we do pass it on.
And lastly, one hot potato to pass on to future leaders. Don't we have a name for that? I think it's called the inauguration, right? Now, I don't know if you notice any changing colors in my tie or not, but change is a part of life. And the changes of this year have made us all that much more aware of what is precious and wonderful in this world and what we too often take for granted. And before you know it, Santa will have come and gone, and with any luck, will have left us with a monumental year for all the good reasons instead of the bad ones. Until then, dear community, be safe, be good to one another.
This has been our December 18th, 2020 program, the 2020 Gifts to the City program. Before we proceed, I'd like to recognize some gold sponsors: Emergency Veterinary Hospital, Sacred Earth Botanicals, and Homes for Good. Before we thank our speakers today, there are a few quick announcements. Thank you to our in-kind sponsors, KRVM 91.9 Radio, PAC Info and Simplified Computing LLC, Dotson's Photography. And a special thanks to public radio station KLCC 89.7 for airing City Club programs on Mondays at 7. And thank you to Community Television of Lane County Cable Channel 29 for televising recent City Club programs. Our programs are always available on our YouTube channel and on our Facebook page. We will have no program for the next few weeks, but we'll return in January with a program on implicit bias. Featured speakers will be Eric Jervin, Ron Danisi, and Justice Adrian Nelson. Please join us on Friday, January the 8th. More details and information about future programs can be found online at the City Club's website, cityclubofeugene.org. And now I would like to thank the speakers for a great program. Really, thank you. Jeanette Keim, Joel Alboa, Jennifer Skurlock, Tim Black, Camilla Mortensen, Midas Well, Timothy Inglesby, Mustafa Kasubal, Sarah Majeri, and Emily Hamlin. Thank you all very much for your gifts to our city. That concludes our program. Be well and safe, and have a great holiday season.